What is up, guys? KFC bringing you another attack strategy video. Sitting over in the main clan, the Goodfellas. I'm going to put up this video because we're still sort of getting used to each other from the Goodfellas and Mirkwood merger. And so this video primarily will be for the folks over at TGF Rising, although I will be showing attacks here from the main clan. Let's go ahead and get into this war here. Looks like the main clan's about to notch a victory. That was a Town Hall 7, so we'll start with some Town Hall 9 on Town Hall 9 action. So the real purpose of this video is to demonstrate some good rules of thumb for folks in TGF Rising to be doing. I'll use Mikey as a pretty good example here of one thing that he did correctly. That's starting off with something there on the corner huts. So he chose minions because of the builder event this week. But in general, archers would do just fine as well. So like I said, a couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and stop here. It wasn't my intention to sort of analyze attacks in this video, but since I do see things that I could point out, I'll go ahead and do that. And then I have a list of about 15 or so things that I just want to, if I put out a video and link you guys to it and have you guys watch it, it'll just be a nice, easy way to sort of convey information without hoping that everyone reads it on Discord. So that's the hope of putting out this video. So the number one thing here that Mikey did, one is that he brought too many wizards. So in general, Town Hall 9 versus Town Hall 9, a good rule of thumb is that you never really bring more than 9 wizards. If you're bringing more than 9 wizards, you haven't really scouted the base properly. Really, the purpose of wizards are to do two things. One, create your funnel, and two, clean up. So on this base, if he wanted to come in from this angle, essentially what he needs to happen is he needs sort of these buildings here to go down, and he needs sort of these buildings over here to go down. The primary unit that takes out sort of these middle buildings is not supposed to be wizards. It's supposed to be your archer queen. So as soon as the golems go down and they begin tanking, you want to get your queen down as soon as possible. So these two elixir storages here, or elixir collectors, are supposed to be being taken out by the archer queen, not by wizards. So when you drop golem to start, you're going to want to identify which buildings you want to sort of get taken out with it. So let's see, this archer tower is not in range of this spell factory, and neither is that cannon. This cannon is locked onto a golem, and that wizard tower will touch the wizard, but wizard will be able to take out the structures before anything bad happens to it. So really, if I were doing this base and I were to drop golems where Mikey dropped them, I would identify maybe 1, 2, 3. There's 3 structures here I would target. I would let the wizard that knocks out this gold mine and the wizard that knocks out the dark spell factory eventually converge on the regular spell factory, and that's going to create a funnel over here on the left side. So that's a total of 3 wizards for this side. Then I would go over here. I would identify these 4 buildings as buildings that the archer queen will take out, and then I would identify 1, 2, 3. I'd probably just stick with those 3 buildings there. So it's a total of 6 wizards. So on this raid, golem, 6 wizards is your funnel. And then if you want to, good rule of thumb, always add 2 wizards for cleanup. 1 for one end of the trash ring, 1 for another. So this would be an example of a raid that if I were bringing wizards, I would bring a total of 8. I would not have brought, it looks like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 wizards, 3 too many, and they're also spread out in a way that's going to, it's still going to create a funnel, it's just not going to create as efficient of a funnel as we would like. So let's go ahead and watch the end of this raid, see if I can pick up on anything else. I noticed he does have 5 wall breakers there. Stop. So this is a good example of there's no point in bringing 5 wall breakers if you're just going to drop all 5 like that. Wall breaker, so if there was, for example, in between these 2 army camps, which have now been taken out by wizards, if there was a small bomb placed 2 tiles back of that wall, these wall breakers would be dead. You do want to bring more wall breakers than you need to break open a wall, and we call that the test wall breaker. And that is another thing that I have written down on these post-its to talk about as well. So just like wizards, when you're building an attack strategy, you want to make sure you bring the least number of troops that's going to have the highest impact on what you need. So on this raid, we needed a total of 6 wizards for the funnel. We needed 2 wizards for cleanup, so it's 8 wizards. And then on this, 2 Wallbreaker 5s can get through level 8 walls, and 1 test Wallbreaker. So rather than 5 Wallbreakers, we'd want to have brought 3 here. The reason why you bring a test Wallbreaker is to run the test Wallbreaker through the middle of these 2 army camps to make sure that there's not a small bomb there. Otherwise, you're just sort of spamming in Wallbreakers and wasting troop space. So my tip for Mikey here would be there should be 3, not 5. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to kind of drop Golem, then you drop your Wizards, then you drop your Archer Queen, and then you drop your Test Wallbreaker. So if you're trying to get into this habit of doing these sort of what we call a shattered entry, there was an old YouTuber that kind of created a name for different attack strategies. So 2 golems is called shattered, 1 is called cold blood, etc. So when I say a shattered entry, I simply mean that he's using 2 golems. So if you want to get into the habit of these sort of entries, that's sort of the general pattern, right? It's golem, 6 wizards, archer queen, test Wallbreaker, and it has sort of a fast-paced momentum to the attack. And remember that we are watching, in this video, we are watching a 3-star attack. So it's not, well, I'm not saying that it can't work, but you will consistently hear me say we want to have folks both in the main clan and in the feeder clan that technically are very efficient and can get the job done in the most efficient manner, as opposed to just sort of spamming troops in and sort of getting lucky. So even though this is a 3-star attack, the first 15 seconds of it have been, there's a lot of things here that could be improved. So that's why I'm putting out this video, and that's why I hope a lot of guys in TGF Rising will watch it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start making some notes here on my list. So as a reminder, never more than 9 wizards on Town Hall 9 raids. We've got that covered. And the way that I sort of build my army compositions is I sort of start with funnel and cleanup and test Wallbreakers first, and that'll let you know, like, oh, hey, if I need 6 wizards for the funnel, it's 24, plus 8 more for the cleanup is 32, plus a total of 3 Wallbreakers would be 38. I'm good at math. So 38 there, and that lets you know how much army camp space you have left. And so sort of build it from sort of the front end of the raid, the back end of the raid, and then sort of that Valks or Loons or what have you. All right, so we got the never more than 9 wizards on Town Hall 9 raids, and we also have the test Wallbreaker, and always sort of planning for that. So that's good. All right, so let's go ahead and continue watching the rest of this raid and see if there's anything else here that we can sort of pick up. Notice that Mikey is not bringing a jump spell because I'm a pretty big fan of this. Valkyries can break through walls pretty easily, especially when they're under rage. So that's very good. That one loon there got outside of the poison. Always try and, like, I'll say here, again, I'll stop. This is not, it's sort of on my list with regards to, especially with poisons with loons, you want to slow them down as much as possible. So wherever you drop the poison, the back end of the poison, so where it's in between those 2 tassels right there, as soon as it comes down, you want that to be, excuse my ESPN notification, you want that to be where the loons really enter the poison spell, so they will get destroyed by the time anything happens. So a good rule of thumb is to sort of place the poison spell, if they're going to come out of the clan castle here, it's over just a little bit to the right. That's why that one balloon sort of made it out. It's called a trailing poison spell. So you're going to put the end of the poison spell onto the CC, push it over a little bit, and you also can preempt it. So the poison spell lasts, I believe, 14 seconds, but it only takes about 8 seconds for it to kill a dragon. So when you're, let's go ahead and restart this attack real quick, and I'll kind of show you maybe where I would have dropped it. So restarting attack 14. So we've got, I'm going to do this in 2x until the golems get dropped, and then I'll go back to 1x here. All right, so we got golem, and this one I would do wizard, in the way that I said it. Archer queen would be down right now. Test Wallbreaker would be down right now. I would wait for the test Wallbreaker, and then I would drop my 2 Wallbreakers. So that's sort of the pattern, right? At the end of the day, everything still happens at about the same speed, but you're just doing it with more efficiency. I rewound this to show you where I would have dropped the poison spell, and I went too far because I was talking. But as soon as that golem sort of went through where the Wallbreaker did, I would have known that that was about the range. Let's see if I can get the CC here. That's about when the CC is going to come out, especially. So I would have had it dropped probably about 3 seconds ago, probably about the 1 minute 41 second mark, and I would have had it positioned right around this area here to get the dragon and the loons. So for Mikey, he doesn't actually get it down until about 7 seconds later. And you can see how that 7 seconds is really critical, because at this point, the dragon would almost be down if it was a preemptive sort of poison spell there. So let's go ahead and watch the rest of this raid here. Obviously, like I said, he does get the 3-star, puts Valks under a heal spell, and then puts him under a rage spell and kind of gets through the rest of his base no problem. I usually try and pair Valkyries with at least some hogs. I was always a fan of go Vaho as opposed to just straight Valks, especially when there are other compartments, because what you can do, and just for the sake of, I know it's been almost 11 minutes on this base, but hopefully it is valuable information. If I sort of load it up again, right, if you have, congratulations on the win, TGF, if you have Valkyries sort of in this area, Valkyries have so many hit points that obviously these pieces of point defense and then these pieces of point defense will be locked on to your Valkyries, which are in the center. And so if you have Valkyries sort of in the center here, you can easily just trail in maybe 4 hogs on this cannon, 4 hogs on that cannon, so you get a total of 8 hogs. While all that point defense is targeting your Valkyries, the hogs will kind of break through all the defenses in that compartment, all the defenses in that compartment, and it just makes your cleanup or your attack a little bit more efficient. So 8 hogs would have been 40 space. So rather than take 16 Valkyries on this attack, I probably would have taken somewhere around 11. And then I would have taken 8 hogs. I still would have had the golem. I still would have had the minions. I would have had less wizards. So I might have given myself an extra hog or 2. And that's sort of the ways that I would have made some subtle changes to this base. So overall, good attack, Mikey. And yeah. So let's go ahead and move on to some more Town Hall 9 on Town Hall 9 action. I will try and get back to the primary purpose of this video, which was to not break down these attacks, but to talk about some good rules of thumb. So I'm going to let this play in the background as I shift over to that focus. So one of the things in TGF Rising that we've been seeing, and that we, on the one hand, it's good because we like folks to be learning sort of the top tier strategies. On the other hand, it's bad because you're just not ready for them yet. So when it comes to walking your Archer Queen, especially in a feeder clan where your heroes could be 7 to 10 or even 15, you generally don't get the value that you hope or that you see other top level players get. When you have a 25 level queen or a 30 level queen, her DPS is really what makes up for the fact that you're committing essentially 56 troop space worth of healers for her. So it's almost just like it's almost like you're going into the raid down 56 troop space, but you're getting additional value from your queen. And so she needs to be able to make up for that 56 troop space worth of investment. And when you have a level 7 queen or a level 12 queen, it's just not there. So in terms of an overall takeaway, a good rule of thumb, especially for players that are in TGF Rising with lower level heroes, is that you should not AQ walk with an Archer Queen below 20. Once she hits around that level 20 radius, that's when you can sort of get into more fancy attacks. I would also recommend never, this is another rule of thumb, so it's a little bit separate, so let's just put that one to the side for a second. So no AQ walking with heroes under 20. I am also a huge fan in terms of a rule of thumb. If you are doing a dip strategy, if you're a Town Hall 11 dipping on a Town Hall 10, or if you're a Town Hall 10 dipping on a Town Hall 9, you're just trying to run over the base. You're not trying to be fancy. So in general, a good rule of thumb would be if you're dipping down, do not bring an AQ walk as a part of that dip. Some folks may disagree, and that's fine. What I'm trying to do in putting out this video is explain sort of our clan's philosophies and sort of the reasons why we think that. At the end of the day, AQ walking comes with sort of the risk of forgetting to drop your rage soon enough, or not quite getting the poison right, or a surprise Tesla popping up, or what have you. And what we really want to teach folks when they're dipping is to make sure that is a really terrible base. It's probably not even worth a replay. Sorry, Skywalker. Congratulations on your 6-star war, but that base was atrocious. Go ahead and watch his attack here from Relic. Also not a great base, but at least this is an example of a base, by the way. If you're a TGF Rising Town Hall 9 watching, This is an example of a base that I would expect would go down in no more than 2 attacks. I mean, this symmetrical base sort of has to go down with a very high consistency. I'm not sure how Maine did on this base, but I would hope that this was a fresh hit, but I don't know for sure. All right, back to my rules of thumb here. So no AQ walking under 20, and then no AQ walking on dips are, again, they're good rules of thumb more than anything. Let's see what else I have here. Let's stick with the AQ walking sort of themes. So if you are a Town Hall 10, most of the time, especially if you're in the main clan, your primary objective is going to be to put 2 stars on Town Hall 11s. It is a good rule of thumb usually to always AQ walk Town Hall 11 bases because you tend to get a lot of value for your queen. So in that case, you're sort of looking for an area sort of on the map or on a particular base where you can pretty much soak up about 30 to 35% with your AQ walk and maybe 2 rages. Because then at that point, all you're really doing is Town Hall diving. I understand that Town Hall 11 has gotten significantly more difficult. I was actually only a Town Hall 10 for a handful of months, so it's almost a little unfair of me to really comment on the difficulty of Town Hall 10 versus Town Hall 11. I do know that I have a Town Hall 10 account right now that's brand new, that's 3033, and I do know that it is difficult, but that being said, I am hitting sort of in that area of around 46 to 48, so that usually is a good indication that once they are a little bit bigger, there won't be as many issues. But if you are AQ walking 10v11, I think you should always do it, but the primary point of what I'm trying to get at here is don't be cute with your Archer Queen. You're not a Town Hall 9 hitting a Town Hall 9. You're not a 10 hitting a 10. You are a 10 hitting an 11. You should expect that your Archer Queen is going to go down a little bit quicker than she would on normal raids. And so what I see a lot of people do in Rising more than Main is that folks will sort of be watching their queen and then they'll get a late rage spell down, maybe when there's only 25% health left or something like that. When you're hitting 10v11, once she kind of gets into an area where she's hitting a couple of storages, just drop the rage spell, play it safe, make sure she doesn't go down, because that ultimately really sinks the raid, obviously, when she goes down early in a Town Hall 11 raid. And most of the time, it can be prevented by simple... that was a nice funnel there, by the way, by if you go back to the earlier pieces of that. So he has just enough wizards to sort of make his funnel. But notice that he has 1 left in the pocket, and that's because he's a little bit more like me, so I would also usually only take 1 wizard for cleanup. The reason being that if you assume that the base, so he's going to La Lune here, he's going to go in, he's going to get these 2 ADs, so he'll probably end up starting his air from down here, because this sweeper is pointed to the left. So he's going to start his air sort of over here, and he knows that his air is going to finish somewhere in this range. So once the air attack finishes, his balloons will be cleaning up this side, and he'll have the 1 extra wizard for maybe somewhere down here. I'm not sure if that'll actually end up playing out because I'm obviously doing this live. But that is one way to look at it too. Some people would take the extra wizard for somewhere up here just in case, or maybe throw the extra wizard somewhere over here to kind of speed it up. But ultimately, El Runyon, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, kind of doing it the way that I would do it. So we'll kind of see how this raid plays out at the end. Back to what I was saying, don't be cute with AQ 10v11. Get your rage spells down. Usually you're committing 2 rage spells to your walk with your AQ, and then you are raging some sort of a core dive, whether it be bowlers or Valks, and then you're usually doing some sort of like a freeze spell or a heal spell sort of in the core, and that leaves you a couple of dark spells, I believe, and then maybe another rage. So you get 5 elixir spells. Usually 2 for your walk, and then usually 2 or 3 for the core dive is the general rule of thumb. So let's go ahead and move on here. I'm watching to see how this attack ends up playing out, and if he starts the La Lune from the area that I predicted that he would, it should be around 6 o'clock. I probably would have started already. That King is providing tanking. Granted, it's only for cannon, so he's going to start where it is. And then here come the balloons there. So that's pretty much where along the lines I was expecting. And then you can probably see that wizard. That wizard's probably going to drop somewhere kind of around down here at some point in time during this raid. Queen's doing massive amount of work over there on the top left side. In come the rest of the balloons. He's got really, really nice cleanup so far. So those 2 minions will probably go at this elixir storage right here. And then the wizard's kind of dead at this point. Okay, so the minions went over there. I probably would have put it on the storage myself. Everything will kind of backtrack to get that elixir storage. Sorry, I put a pen in my mouth like I was analyzing something. So good attack all the way around by Elrond here. And the last thing that will go down will be that elixir storage there at 6 o'clock. So nice attack there. Let's move on to so let's go ahead and watch some Town Hall 10 versus that's a Town Hall 9 dip. That is an example of a base, by the way, that main struggle with that they should not have. That base needs to go down all the time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and watch this 10v10. Yes, 10v10 from Sam on there in a break. So continuing along, another good rule of thumb is that in terms of, some people will ask, well, when I'm on an AQ walk, should I rage first or should I use my AQ ability first? In general, you always want to use your rage spell before you use your AQ ability. The AQ ability has a lot more utility to it later on in the raid. Once you use the ability, you kind of lose, it's like the ultimate get out of jail free card. Sometimes you can still lose your queen even with a rage spell drop. When you use the AQ ability, she is locked in and safe. So for that moment. So in general, if you have to pick which one you sort of want to have your finger on, just in case shit goes bad, you want it to be on the rage spell first, AQ ability a little bit later. So cross that one off there. Another good sort of rule of thumb for people that are going up to hit Town Hall 11s, and it seems really common sense, but everyone's coming from a different starting point, especially with people that are coming from Mirkwood. Some folks over there super experienced and sort of have been around the block before, and some folks are just sort of learning. Really, really good rule of thumb. Town Hall 11, Town Hall 10 on Town Hall 11, any building that's free, you should have a plan for. So free buildings would, for example, be like stuff in the corner would be free buildings, things that when you drop an archer or a minion, it's not going to be targeted. And that primarily shows that you scouted the base because, again, if you think about what I talked about earlier, when it comes to counting up your wizards that you need for your funnel or counting your test wall breakers, you also count the number of archers or minions that you need for pick-off buildings, right? And so sometimes it can change wildly, right? Sometimes someone might have an entire compartment filled. Let's say this compartment was nothing but cannons. You might drop 4 or 5 wizards over here. Sometimes they'll have an archer tower there and you can't do it. So it really just sort of is up to the base. But good rule of thumb, Town Hall 10 on Town Hall 11, always make sure you've accounted for every single building that is not protected, and you usually start off your raid by picking off those buildings, because what you don't want to do is put an archer on an exposed elixir collector or something like that, but then have the eagle artillery sort of get you at the end. So good rule of thumb, pick off all the buildings, pick off as many buildings as possible and do it at the start of the raid. All right, I've got 6 more, and that'll sort of end this video, and hopefully it has been helpful. So we're about 23 minutes in, so it'll be about a half-hour long video. I'll try and make them a little shorter so that people actually watch them. Didn't quite get there this time. All right, so let's speed it up a little bit here. Town Hall 9, base building. You should not have any double bombs anywhere in the base. That's old school meta. Double bombs no longer take out a group of hogs. People can just heal around it. Occasionally, you can make the argument that if people run 15 Valks into a double plus a wizard tower, that's good. But that doesn't happen often enough that I want you to be concerned about it. In general, best thing that you can do at Town Hall 9 defense-wise, all single bombs, bomb tower away from the archer queen. Just sort of spread out all your bombs to sort of make because everyone usually comes to a Town Hall 9 raid with ground, with a jump spell and a rage spell, so that leaves 2 heal spells. And if you spread out your bombs and make it so that they have to use them during the raid, it makes it a lot harder for them to secure that triple. So that's the end of that post-it. No problems there. I'll go through these 2 other ones pretty quickly. Generally, a good rule of thumb for Town Hall 9, if the kill squad is shallow, and what that means is, this is a poor example of a base to show it on here. I'm going to go ahead and 4x this and see if I can find an example of a shallow kill squad. But essentially, if you think of a base where the Archer Queen is like completely exposed, or if you just have to break into one compartment, boom, there you go, you would get the entire Archer Queen. Um, the shallower the kill squad, the less emphasis you should place on a heavy Valkyrie kill squad. Valkyries tend to be used best when there is a centralized Archer Queen where they get all the way into the base, they take out the queen, and then they serve as those final tanks for those outside hogs or loons or whatever you're bringing. So if the AQ is early on in the raid, you can still bring Valks, but maybe like 2 or 3, and it shouldn't be your primary victory condition or win condition. In that case, you're sort of looking at hogs to be your primary win condition. So no Valks if there is a shallow kill squad. Another thing, you should not, and I haven't seen this a lot, but this was something that was brought up by another co-leader, don't use mass dragons at Town Hall 9. It tends to not be an appropriate strategy. Too many seeking air mines sort of ruin your days when you're doing that. At Town Hall 10, the dragon attack is being a lot more popular, but in general, at Town Hall 9, you have to get away from the dragons for a little while. If you're using Go Balloon or Go Bowlaloon, so that would be an example of maybe 2 golems, 2 hounds, 14 balloons, and bowlers out of the CC. You're really looking to get the enemy Archer Queen, the enemy CC, and at least 2 ADs. So the El Runyon attack that we saw earlier was a good example of what he got. He got 2 ADs, he got the enemy CC, and he got the enemy Archer Queen. If you don't get that with your kill squad, you are in for a rough Go Bow Balloon attack. So always make sure to sort of get at least all of that, and then figure out, like I did with the air sweeper, figure out what's the best angle to come in. So if you want to think about it, if you're coming in with the ground portion of the Go Bow Laloon, I don't know why it's a tongue tie, you can kind of just like cover up the portion of the base with your hands that you expect to kind of get. Look at the air sweeper and then just figure out if you're coming from one angle or the other angle. Let's see, 2 more things here. I'm not a huge fan of suicide heroes, but in general, if you do suicide your heroes, it should be because you know the value that you're getting from them. It's hard to know exactly what value you should get. Your king for their queen is 99 times out of 100 the correct play if you can get it. But don't get tricked, right? Like if it's inside of a compartment and you need to break in first, I just prefer going in with a golem myself. Let's go ahead and look at some 10v11s as I wrap up this video here. 71% on a Town Hall 11 is pretty good. This might actually be a 10-5. It is a 10-5, but it's still good. Yeah, so try and know the value of your suicide heroes. Like I said, at best, I usually never suicide my queen. Occasionally, you see people. Usually, when Town Hall 11s come down and dip on Town Hall 10s, they'll suicide quote unquote their heroes when they're funneling for their miners. But at Town Hall 9, sometimes if the queen, like right here, would be an example of a time when you could suicide a king, because you could drop your king as soon as she steps out of the wall, so you wouldn't be dropping it now. Excuse me, Sam. I'm sorry, I'm delaying your attack here. So as soon as she came right here, we would drop our king, press the ability. The queen's outside the wall. He would run at her, and he would get her. So you can do that in terms of suicide hero. But again, that's usually a 9-on-9 trick. For like a 10-on-10, I would not just suicide my king like that. All right, we have 2 more. This one came up in this war, and unfortunately we lost a member because of it. I never mean to be rude, but sometimes I come off that way, so sorry. Do not scout a town hall above you until your town hall level is complete. So we had in this war, we had a individual, a town hall 9. For whatever reason, he went in on town hall 9 for his first attack, didn't do well. His second attack, he went in, and he went in on a Town Hall 10 just to scout it. It wasn't even the base that I would have had him scout, had it been clear anyway. So in general, check Discord. It's the best rule of thumb. I know that some folks don't play this game. Some folks don't play Clash of Clans to be on Discord all the time, and I get that. For our clan family, it is sort of an expectation. I always put out a war plan sort of based off where we're at in the war, and that war plan could change. So if at noon I say, hey, Sam, it's your responsibility to hit 4, but then another Town Hall 10 hits 4 and gets a 2-star, I might say, well, now, Sam, now it's your responsibility to hit 3. I don't know. always check Discord. It's just a good habit to get into. Everything's usually updated there, and if not, you can always tag me. And finally, the final sort of rule of thumb that I would have, it's my number one. If you fail a raid because of it, I'm going to be upset. If the base has corner archer huts, right, like this one, you should always bring an archer for it. In this case, a minion for it. You just need to be mindful. It's always worth one troop space to make sure that the stuff in the corner goes down. It's important mostly in like equivalent town hall attacks. So like town hall 9 on town hall 9, and there goes that minion. So Sam knows what he's doing. He had that minion down. He took out that builder hut. It's a free percentage point. It's just always super important. So if there's 4 corner huts and you're doing a Laloon, drop a wizard. And see if you can make your funnel with 1 less wizard. If you absolutely need every single troop of your army composition, and you cannot account for the 4 corners, you probably don't have an attack that has a high probability of succeeding anyway. So those are the rules of thumb. I am putting this video out primarily for folks in TGF Rising, although obviously it will be made available to everybody. I'll try and put them out as we continue to develop as a clan. Since the merge, we have gotten a little bit better. So everyone kind of came over there in that Dragonflower War. So we've only been together for 15 days, and we are at about 500 as a clan. We should be at about 6-2. Those first 2 losses both should have been wins. And then the 3 pump jumps, we were kind of severely disadvantaged. So I don't think we were winning that one anyway. And I don't really remember Los Duros all that much. I remember that it was an engineered clan as well. But it looks like we were sort of in the hunt there as well. So overall, we're sort of on the way to kind of getting into what I would consider sort of a good sort of all green sort of warlog. We just need to, every war that you are a green shielded for, you should be ready to go. If you're not ready to go, you're not ready to hit your windows, Town Hall 9s, hitting Town Hall 9s in the first 12 hours, etc., just go red. It's not a big deal. I'm always happier to run a 10v10 war with 10 people that are ready to go, then run a 15-15 if 5 people are sort of like, I could hit, I cannot hit, doesn't really matter to me. We have plenty of alt accounts, so even if, you are the 15th person, I can always find someone to add in, I can always find someone to drop. So don't feel pressure. If you don't feel like Warren, just hit the red shield, because if you are green, I expect you to be ready to go. So that's all I got for this video. I know it went a little bit long, I apologize. Hopefully it was valuable to you folks down there in TGF Rising. Feel free to tag me on Discord with any questions that you have, and I will see you guys around.